Just getting set up early in case anybody drops in. There we go. Hello, hello. Just the pre-setup. One guy I knew in the past, he would always start his live streams early and say, well, give people time to get there. So I learned from his habit. Cool. Anyway, if you'd like to introduce yourself in the comment, please do. We're going to be talking about Pisces. Hello, hello. Is the sound working? Yes, it is. Okay, good, good, good. There have been issues.
So Pisces is an interesting sign because it is the most spiritual sign in one way and the most airheaded, ungrounded sign in the other way. So it's interesting. And with all signs, there's a spectrum of the reality of the sign. And there are many different motifs because we have to remember that each sign basically covers 1/12 of infinity, which is kind of infinity. So before I technically begin in less than a minute, let's consider what Pisces is really all about. Pisces is about dissolving into the infinite. That's one way of looking at it. Pisces is about merging with the divine. The problem is that merging with the divine in the way Pisces does it oftentimes makes us less viable in our physical lives, in our actual situation. And so it's more important for a Pisces than most other signs to be grounded. Because the thing about spirituality is that it's not all about floating in the clouds and having amazing fantasies and all of that, right? Pisces is, and spirituality is ideally about kind of an upgrade here in our earth life. Okay. Pisces should be an archetype that helps us navigate the pitfalls of spirituality
and also to grasp the potential of opening to the spirit realm. So, how do we do that right now? Since we're in Pisces season, we have an upcoming Virgo full moon, which we always have during Pisces season. We always have a Pisces new moon and a Virgo full moon every Pisces season. That's the way it works. Don't ask me the astronomy. But basically, the Virgo full moon, Virgo and Pisces are opposite, right? So when the sun and the moon are opposite, we get a full moon. And when they're together, we get a new moon where the moon is blank. And so the full moon is kind of about culminations. And the new moon is about setting intentions, making a new wish. So we also have Mercury retrograde. And with Mercury retrograde in Pisces season, here's a good theme. We're going from the motif of learning spirituality, about learning who we are, to remembering. We're going from learning to remembering. And remembering in our current age of spiritual acceleration is the thing we need to do. We need to remember who we are. There's nowhere to go to learn who you are except in you. There are other people that can reflect it, can acknowledge aspects of yourself that you don't get. But in the end, it's about learning who we are. Remembering who we are and having that remembering kind of create a domino effect through our consciousness, through our psyche. And so when we think of, for example, past lives, I do past life regression, as most of you know. There are two ways that people go about finding out about their past lives. One way to do it is to have a reading, to have a past life reading, where a psychic taps in and tells you who you were in a past life. And you might have a reaction to that. You might intuitively know it's true or false or whatever. But in the end, you're listening to somebody else. So let's call that the realm of learning. And then there's past life regression hypnosis, which is what I do. And that's more in the realm of remembering. Okay. When you remember who you were in a past life, it's much more grounded and it's much more powerful than if you learn from somebody else who you were in a past life. Because then you just have to take their word for it. And that's no fun. And so, in terms of psychic abilities, for example, it's very important to have them be organic. It's not something bestowed on you from somebody else. Not saying that couldn't happen. I wouldn't know, right? But even if it does happen, it's only waking up your remembering. It's only waking up that part of you that's been psychic the whole time. In terms of spirituality, we have to start with the idea that you're already spirit. That is already what you are. And As you awaken more and more to the spirit that you are, um, what happens is that you have an identity shift. You not only have a frequency shift, you have an identity shift. And as your identity shifts into your true nature, this temporary nature of the ego might resist. It might resist that process. And that's to be expected. But what's happening is that we are being awakened by a lag time reduction. And what the hell does that mean? Well, think of it this way. There's a lag time. If you can make a wish and assume it comes true, there's a lag time between when you make the wish and when it comes true. In a lower frequency situation, a lower frequency reality, we have a longer lag time. So what happens with the longer lag time is, and I've talked about it before, is that instead of thinking, oh no, I hope a dinosaur doesn't come and eat me, if we have no lag time, there's a dinosaur coming for you right now, theoretically. And with a shorter lag time, we can think a bunch of these thoughts like a dinosaur coming to eat me. But then we have enough time to think other thoughts. So they kind of all go into a mix. And then our manifestation is a result of that mix. The higher the frequency, the shorter the lag time in the manifestation. Okay, so there's two paradigms that we're changing. From learning to remembering, and noticing that the lag time is reducing in manifestation. People are seeing the results of their manifestations more and more quickly as time goes on. And as that happens, people are then able to tap into the energy of remembering versus learning. Because there's nothing like the hands-on experience of a situation to teach you versus the theoretical. So Pisces generally is about dissolving into the spiritual realm. But right now, this Pisces season, we have Mercury retrograde, like I talked about before. So we're actually in a state of going over things, reconsidering things, reconsidering beliefs, for example, that we might have taken for granted, and reconsidering ways of life. And that's also happening in Pisces. So we have a spiritual review with the Mercury retrograde in Pisces. And then we have going from learning to remembering. Well, that's perfect for Mercury retrograde because we're going backwards. So think of it as we're going into ourselves for the answers. And what is assisting us in this is noticing that manifestation, the lag time of manifestation, is narrowing. And like I've said many times before, thank God that there has been a lag time in manifestation. Because without that lag time, we would be in trouble Without the lag time of manifestation, every fearful, negative thought that we had would be instantly manifested in a scenario in our lives, and that would be a drag. You don't want that to happen. You don't want to think, oh, I hope I don't get in an accident. Boom, you get in an accident. But if it did happen, it would teach you the power of your thoughts very quickly. The problem is you probably wouldn't be able to get in touch with your thoughts enough to change them as quickly as would be needed, and you just keep getting into accidents, and every fearful, neurotic thought in your mind would turn into an event in your life, which it does now, but with a lag time. And it is mixed in with other energies now. And so it's really important to understand that we are in an acceleration, a spiritual acceleration. It's kicking up all our stuff on a personal level, on the level of family, the level of company, the level of country, and the world global level. We can see that war just started yesterday with Iran, that it's ongoing in Ukraine, that a lot of things are bubbling up to the surface, issues that have been around in human consciousness for a very long time. And these things are causing us, hopefully, and I say yes, in this age of spiritual acceleration, these things are causing us to review our standing, to review our beliefs, to review our intentions, to really think, do we want to attack this country? Why are we doing it? Who wants us to do it? Who doesn't want us to do it? And we're getting a chance to look at these old patterns from a new perspective. Now, one thing about starting a war in Mercury retrograde, expect the unexpected. And who knows what that unexpected could be? On the first day, it was a disastrous bombing of a girls' school. Tragic. That's not how you win hearts and minds, people. And whether it was us or the Israelis that did it, somebody did it. And it's part of this initial salvo of this war. And then you wipe out a president of a country. Well, don't be surprised if that contagion spreads from beyond the borders of Iran. Don't be surprised if karma, the boomerang of karma, starts being a little faster on its return journey. I'm not saying anybody's going to get hurt. I'm just saying the energy of these things as it picks up might cause some drama out there. So anyway, what we need to do in any kind of spiritual acceleration is we need to learn to be discerning in the way that we take in information. And we need to start noticing that we do take in the information as information, as words, as logic. And we also take in information emotionally and intuitively. So during this Pisces season, one thing you might want to check out is how much are you feeling what's going on as you hear what's going on? We are opening up into our intuition. And the first part of that could trigger anxiety, overwhelm, and sensitivity, because Pisces is symbolized by the ocean. And if you think about the ocean, all the waves kind of impact all the other waves. Like there's nothing really stopping it except the land masses, right? But out in the ocean, right, one wave, the impact of that wave kind of ripples throughout the whole ocean, obviously diminishing with distance, right? But so the thing is, there's a way of tuning into those ripples. You're doing it all the time, whether you know it or not. That's the thing. We're always tuning in. Everybody is psychic. And knowing that, if we start working with that, which at this time in human history, with this Mercury retrograde during Pisces season, we have an opportunity to really tap into that, to really tap into the fact that we are reading the energy all the time. And as we read the energy all the time, we need to start trusting what we're getting. Now, when it comes to intuition, you have to think, well, let me give you a little analogy. Have you ever read a description of a wine by a wine expert? Like they might say it has a hint of mushroom and tobacco and shoe leather and like all this stuff that you don't necessarily want to drink. But what they're doing is they're describing flavors that are hard to describe and smells that are hard to describe. And so there's like a lingo about how to describe these things. Like I don't want to drink wine really that if you tell me, oh, it's kind of like mushrooms and shoe leather, no, count me out, right? But if you drink the wine, you might say, oh, I see what they're saying. Okay. We need to learn a vocabulary. When we tap into these intuitions, the first thing that we want to do usually is share. But then we end up sounding like the guy describing wine as shoe leather and mushrooms. And then people are like, what the hell is that? That doesn't make sense. That doesn't sound great to me. So the first thing that you need to do with your intuition is acknowledge it. The second thing that you need to do with your intuition is watch the story that you tell and let it be a hypothesis, but not a fact. If you say, my intuition is telling me to move to a different country, maybe it is. But maybe you're going a little too far in the intuition, in the interpretation, and maybe you're being too literal, right? You might get the feeling of, I want to move, I need to move. And then you might have an image of the Eiffel Tower in your head. And then you might think, I need to move to Paris. That's where the Eiffel Tower is. It might be two different intuitions. It might be like you need to exercise more and you need to learn French or whatever, study French history, learn art. I don't know. But so the point is, the intuition needs to be handled gently, right? The intuition, as it comes up, and it will come up, and it's coming up for people more and more and more than ever. We need to learn to manage it. Otherwise, either we're going to come off being totally ridiculous, or we're just going to be really ungrounded and inaccurate. Okay. So, born on the 15th. Okay. Well, the Ides of March. I thought it was the Ides of March. I don't know what that is. Excuse me. So, if you feel, well, let me pull back. If you realize that intuition is a feeling, okay, intuition is a feeling. Oftentimes it's an emotion, and emotions are feelings too. That's why we call them feelings. Okay, but emotions are information. Emotions are intuitive information. Diane, you don't know either. Yeah, I don't know. What the hell does that mean? I've heard it my whole life. But I really don't know what it means. But I guess it's in Pisces season. So so you're a Pisces, huh? So right now our intuition is getting augmented. It's getting heightened. Okay. But what that's doing to a lot of people is, think of it this way. If you have a stream that's dry, and there's nothing in it except twigs and leaves and whatever, right? And then the water comes and the stream fills up. Well, the first thing that you're going to see of the stream is a big mess of mud and leaves and twigs and all this crap. Now, you're going to need to let that run for a while, okay? And then you see what the stream is all about, right? Water is emotion. Water is intuition. The water element, Pisces, is the main water element, or the wateriest water element sign. So when your intuition comes, the first thing it's going to do is it's going to stir up a lot of old, dead emotions, issues from your past, emotions that you haven't dealt with. Okay. That's like the debris of the stream that's getting washed out. So when the intuition starts increasing, like people think, oh yeah, I want to be psychic, I want to be intuitive, that sounds fun. But if you realize that most intuition doesn't come through knowing, it comes through feeling, it comes through the heart. And if you have any crap in the heart that you haven't cleared out, the first thing you're going to feel is the crap, not the brilliant intuition. Okay. Or you're going to feel them combined. You're going to feel the crap and the brilliant intuition, and you won't know which is which. So, emotional healing is really important, and emotional grounding is super important. So, quickly, before we go any further, let's just do a little grounding exercise. Put your feet on the floor, and if you're barefoot, it's better. If you're not, it's okay. If you're lying down, don't worry about it. Okay. But assuming you're sitting up or standing or whatever, put your feet on the floor. Feel your butt in the chair. Feel whatever part of your body feels the weight of touching the earth. And just feel that. You don't have to do any big spiritual maneuver about it. Just feel the weight of your feet on the ground, your butt in the chair, or if you're lying down, your body on the sofa, bed, whatever you're doing. Okay. And just take an inhale and an exhale and imagine it going down. Yeah, it's good if it feels heavy, Diane. That's a good sign of grounding. Now, when it feels heavy, if it feels emotionally heavy, that's also good because it's tapping you in to the emotion that is blocking part of your intuition. So you're not going to, in general, you're not going to become more intuitive if you don't do the emotional work and the grounding work. Now, there are people that are very ungrounded and very psychic, but you might notice with a lot of those people, they're not very well regulated on certain levels. They have a dramatic life. I'm not saying it's not possible to be crazy and brilliant at the same time. Obviously, it is, but it's better to be a little more grounded. It's more fun, it's healthier. I would recommend it. Okay. So, anytime you're going to tune in, first thing you want to do is feel your body. And all you have to do is feel the weight. So, a lot quicker than the way I ran through it. Feet on the ground, butt in the chair. Inhale, exhale, let go. That's it. And then do your thing. Okay. You can do that grounding exercise 80 times a day. And you won't get overly grounded ever. Nobody needs to know you're doing it, and you will see results. Because the more you're grounded, the more energy you can hold. It's like with electricity. You can't have a high frequency electric thingamajig, the technical term, without it being grounded and well grounded. Because if you do, things are going to short out, things are going to explode and get messed up, and you're going to have a lot of damage. Okay, but that goes the same for our emotional healing process. So we're in the time of Pisces. Pisces is about emotion, intuition, spirituality, dissolving into the oneness of all that is. But it can also be very ungrounded, very spacey, very lacking boundaries. Okay. One of the most important things about our spirituality, our spiritual growth, is boundaries, containment. Let me give you one good thing for the Pisces season during the Mercury retrograde. When you get an intuition, when you're not that used to it, watch how you communicate that intuition to others. Now, in general, I tell people you need to communicate it to others. When you have intuition, it's meant to be passed on. But here's the trick. You don't have to declare it as intuition. Because if you're a beginner, right? If I'm a beginner chef, I might not make an omelet and show it to like the big chef and say, "Hey, here's an omelet." I might say, "Here's my humble attempt at making an omelet. I am open for all guidance in omelet preparation," right? So if I'm new at having intuitions, if I'm not really used to it, then I don't want to say, "Here's my big intuition. Let me lay it on you." Because I know that I'm just kind of just barely letting these intuitions out. I don't know if they're correct. I don't know how much they are distorted by my own issues. So it's better to say, "I just thought of something weird," and then say your intuition. "I just had a weird thought. Monkeys on Jupiter are much stronger than the ones here. Isn't that a crazy thought?" Right? Because if I go and say, "I had a psychic intuition that monkeys on Jupiter are stronger," it's going to be like, "Dude, there's no monkeys on Jupiter." Like, what the hell are you talking about, man? And you're discrediting your intuition before you even get started. It's one of the big newbie mistakes of intuition is packaging it and delivering it a little prematurely and with claiming too much, right? A lot of people in the spiritual realm who get ungrounded about their intuition, what they do is they kind of put their intuition on a pedestal, but a lot of their intuition is just very self-serving. It's like, "I'm hungry for ice cream right now," and I turn it into, "Ice cream is my truth. I had a message from the universe that I need ice cream right now." Probably not, dude. You probably didn't get a message from the universe. You probably just want ice cream. Now, that's okay. No judgment, right? But don't over spiritualize your intuition. It's better actually to under spiritualize your intuition, at least in the way you share it with others in the beginning. Okay, so we're in Pisces season. We have an amazing ability to dissolve into spirit on the next kind of frontier of our own personal evolution. And it's a good thing to do that, right? But it's also, it's going to bring things up. Any idea of dissolving brings up a fear of not being, fear of death, something like that. And when you do have a big spiritual breakthrough, a lot of times what it's going to do is it's going to bring up those kinds of fears. It's going to feel like you could leave your body right now. Because imagine if you are a spirit, but you haven't been living that reality, that if that essence, that spiritual essence of you would get 10 times bigger, it might be confusing. It might feel like, uh-oh, I'm getting ready to leave my body, you know? And then you go into fear, and then you go back into your body, and and then you say, oh my God, I had this amazing spiritual experience, but then I got scared. Okay, that happens a lot. So that's again why grounding is so important. Okay, think of this. The future is no longer a destination, it is a frequency. In the realm of our spiritual ascension, the future's not a destination. It's a frequency that we need to arrive at, right? Not a destination that we need to arrive at. So the future's not just sitting there waiting for us to catch up, to get there. The future is actually right here. It's up to us to raise the frequency to meet it. And what do I mean by the future? I don't mean the future of what year we're talking about or something like that. I mean the future of where our evolution is going. So the future is already here energetically. We could say it always has been. Fine. And we have an unprecedented opportunity to reach it right now. So that's what this Pisces season allows us to do. We are not sitting here waiting for a big spiritual shift. We're the ones doing the shifting. And the shift, the new earth, the spiritual awakening will not happen to you, it will happen through you. And it will happen through you whether you resist it or whether you cooperate with it. If you resist it, that's called swimming upstream. Much harder. If you go with it, it's called swimming downstream. Much easier. You sail a lot faster when you have the wind at your back, pushing you forward, than when you have to tack back and forth to go straight, right? So this Pisces season opens up an energetic potential with the Mercury retrograde in Pisces as well for us to tap in to the emotional issues that are holding back our intuitive magic. And to the degree that we do that work, the shift into the new earth can happen through you. That's all for today. Thank you so much for being here. And for those of you, most of you, who will watch this in the future, thank you for watching it. I hope you see it during the Pisces season. And have a great March. And hopefully see you next Sunday. Bye-bye.